Hello everybody and welcome to another list video as we further explore this new format where we don't bring our own individual lists, we just kind of compile a list of cards. Oh, are those Magic the Gathering booster packs?
I don't know.
But you just looked in, I also saw them, so I don't know why I'm waiting for you to answer. But anyways, today we are here to talk about melee weapons and also what we think are like the best designed melee weapons, or also just like melee weapons that hit what we want from our melee weapons, so to speak. Because this actually was the idea for this came when Travis, after we played the Scarlet Keys, Travis brought up that he felt as though guns were starting to get outclassed by the pace that some scenarios demand. I think this is particularly true for Scarlet Keys. Maybe not for every campaign, but so no spoilers, Scarlet Keys requires you to make a lot of tests that might require, for example, dealing damage. And if your only method of doing so is shooting guns, you're kind of outpaced as compared to someone with a melee weapon. Mm-hmm. But I think this also kind of rings true going forward with other kind of designs when it compares like guns to melee weapons. And I think, like, for example, comparing like the 45 automatic to the machete, even in the early days, there was kind of that like disconnect between them. I think this is like less kind of true for like rogue guns, because rogue guns kind of
they do something else and they come with more bullets too.
Yeah, like the Mauser, right? Yeah. Like the Mauser is a really cool gun because it gives you back money if you succeed by 2, right? If you don't need to shoot more times. And like that's something
that
starts
with 5 bullets as opposed to the 45's 4. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And it costs less too, right? It costs 3 as opposed to...
It costs 3 when upgraded.
Ah, okay, yeah. And I think a big thing of this comes from the Cyclopean Hammer, which is not on our list of best designed melee weapons.
Oh no, this is the opposite. This is one that is the worst designed.
What are you talking about? This one costs like infinite XP, 5 to play, and it doesn't even do extra damage that well?
What do you mean that well? It always does extra damage.
Sure.
Every time.
Like a machete that I can pay 0 XP to put in my deck and 3 money to put into play.
Yeah, but it gives you +3 to your skill test, and it always deals the damage no matter how many enemies you're engaged with.
Sure, but for 5 XP I expect something like that.
Yeah, okay, good. So this is what you expect, and then it has a bunch of other techs too.
Yeah, about moving enemies, that's trash.
No. I mean, like, yes, but also other things. Like, +2 damage.
Yeah, but the +2 damage is effectively if you succeed on a +0 test. Like you're not getting any buff to your test because you have to succeed by probably an amount very similar to what you got buffed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Ross,
nice try.
I mean, like, all I can say is when I played this, I was consistently succeeding by 3 or more. So.
I mean, it's also like, even people on our own Discord channel has been like, is Bryn memeing when Bryn says the Cyclopean Hammer is bad? And honestly, I don't know.
I think he is. I respect Bryn's intelligence more than that.
I will never confirm or deny that.
Yeah. But I think a big thing with this is that, and this is actually something that Travis and I said before, a 5 experience melee weapon should obviously be good. Mm-hmm. It costs 5 experience. But I think a 5 experience melee weapon should still underperform a 5 experience gun, right? Because I think guns, just by their nature, should be better because they have limited uses, right?
Yeah, why is this dumb hammer better than a lightning gun?
Well, it's
a gun that shoots lightning.
Because the lightning gun shoots lightning.
Yeah. All right, Russ, where are you?
But it's like comparing, I don't know, some sort of stupid Iron Man toy to Thor's hammer.
Thor's hammer.
Which one of these is cooler?
Yeah.
One of them's a magic melee weapon.
Depends what you like.
Though I guess technically it's not only a melee weapon because you can throw it, but like you can't throw this for reasons.
I would love if you could throw this.
You can with like actor desperation.
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
I guess you can.
So then, for me, my idea for like the what as a melee weapon, I have it written on this official notepad.
PBG planning notes.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't enhance this.
No. There's dark secrets on this. You can know our time codes for the expanded Rex video. So for me, a melee weapon should be able to deal +1 damage, but it should not be able to do it all the time. Right? That was kind of like where I wanted to start. And then I also think that melee weapons should require more work to match the efficiency of firearms. That's kind of like, for me, what I view from my melee weapons. But why don't we start kind of going through the cards that we've compiled here and talk about them. Hungering Blade. This is a 3-cost, 1 experience, takes up the hand slot, limit 1 per deck, an additional cost to put this card into play. You must search your bonded cards for 3 copies of Bloodlust and shuffle them into your deck. And then Fight as an action, you get +1 fist for this attack for each attack copy of Bloodlust, and it deals +1 damage, and if the attack defeats an enemy, place a resource on this card as an offering. So Travis, while we were getting ready, you said something about cards like these that are kind of just bad. So I'd like you to go in on that while I try to find, when I find the, oh, it's right here.
Okay.
You can still go on it. That.
Yeah, so is one of the issues that I found with when we were talking about beforehand about melee weapons, there's kind of a dichotomy where either a melee weapon is a good weapon, in which case it outclasses guns because it has unlimited uses and unlimited extra damage, you just kill things, or it has a downside that is so great you can't mitigate it or control it, in which case it's inconsistent and bad. And this one kind of falls into the inconsistent category. You can only play 1 per deck, so it's difficult to build around. Like, you need to be able to kill things. It does give it only it's a plus punch that you're missing for having the Bloodlust, and then you can deal extra damage with the Bloodlusts. But the big thing is like the limit 1 per deck, and you do have strong options to find it, but it's difficult to build around and then have it consistently be your weapon.
So Bloodlust, it's as a revelation, remove 2 offerings from the Hungering Blade to attach Bloodlust to it. If you cannot, you take 1 horror and you shuffle this back into your deck. And then as a lightning bolt while attached, you can shuffle the Bloodlust into your deck to deal +1 damage to the attacks, max once per attack.
Yes, like drawing the Bloodlust do eat your draws, which is bad. But it does kind of suffer from, again, the melee weapon thing where it doesn't matter, because as long as you have your melee weapon in play and you're consistently killing things, you don't need other cards.
But yeah, like, to me, what makes this one is it's unreliable in the sense that, like, you don't get positive fist. Like, a big thing about this game is that, like, unless you're willing to work for it, like, you're playing, you know what actually is also what we should put on this list? I think, the Sledgehammer Zero, I think, is another one that's actually good, I think.
Yeah, that one's
I like
not
it.
bad, actually.
Yeah, you know, I'll maybe put it on the list. I might break the slideshow, but it's like a weapon that you have to, like, it deals +1 damage, but you don't get any fist on this one, right? And then if you get the things out and you're killing things, I think it's just like it might be a bit too bad, all the little things. But
yeah, this one is like kind of the inverse problem that a lot of other sort of bad weapons have, where it's the extra damage that they're lacking, whereas this one is like the ability to actually pass the test that you're lacking, which is easier to mitigate than to deal extra damage, but is still kind of an issue, especially when you get to higher difficulties.
You should
and later in the campaign.
Possible spoilers for a campaign video that might not have come out, but you should play this in Dr. Vincent Lee. Is he allowed to play the Hungering Blade? He should be.
Yeah, I think he is. It's a level 1 blue card.
yeah.
I'm pretty sure he's like Carolyn but different colors.
Yeah, that might be funny.
It'll be fun. It's like the wounded bystander will show up and he'll be like, "Please help me," and you're like, "I gotta kill somebody this turn though."
Yes, he can play it. That would be
Yeah, this card tastes to me a lot like attempting to convince your dungeon master to allow you to play with a cursed homebrew sword that is just straight worse than one that he was trying to give you already. He's like, so it hurts you when you don't kill things. And you're like, yeah. And he is like, okay. But it's like +1 otherwise. And you're like, yeah. And he's like, cool. Like, let me just throw this +2 that I was going to give you away. And like, yeah, you can play with that, I guess. Like, it's cool, but is it good? Well, no.
Yeah, this one always falls into the topic where we say, like, it's a cool card, but we don't really want to play it. You know?
If you could play 2 copies of this.
Yeah.
I would play a lot more if I could play 2 copies of it,
Yeah. Just to make it easier to get it into play.
Yeah.
In the first place. Like, once you're getting to play with it, it's like a pretty alright level 1 melee weapon, I think. It's got clear and defined weaknesses.
Yep. Yeah. All right, let's see what's next. We got Baseball Bat, the classic level 2 survivor weapon that
This is level 0.
This is
still level 0. It costs 2, but now it has a level 2 version.
It does.
Yeah. As an action, you can fight. You get +2 fists for this attack. It deals +1 damage. If a skull or an autofill symbol is revealed during this attack, discard baseball bat after this attack resolves. Also takes up 2 hand slots, which I think is also very relevant, right? Like, if you're using this as your melee weapon and it breaks, you might be up, shit creek, right?
Yeah, no.
It's relevant for this card, but like in general, doesn't matter.
Yeah, it makes it really like extra spicy to attack enemies that are engaged with your teammates because you're like, I might fuck both of us here.
Yeah. No, this one falls into like sort of the category I talked about, where it's like you can work to not draw auto fails or skulls, but like you might eventually, and if you do, you're just screwed. And it's like the effort required is not worth it when you can just play a different weapon.
Yeah, but it gives you +2 punch.
It is like a very the numbers on it are very good.
Stats and numbers are very good, but it's just, I mean, when was the last time you guys played this? You wouldn't show up to it. You're like, I'm the monster fighter. I brought baseball bats. I can do that.
Yeah.
I am now.
Okay, good.
And I mean, like, I think that's kind of like where this comes in to me, because like, I feel like if that's the case, right, and we go with this things where like we're not playing these melee weapons that we think like that I think are like some of the best designed melee weapons because they're not good enough, kind of shows that I think some of them are a bit too strong, and I hate, it's on this like channel, I've said it before, I hate guns because they run out of uses, right? Like, enemies don't run out of uses, enemies keep coming, right?
Yeah, I think we are starting to head in the right direction with guns, with things like one in the chamber.
Yes, I agree,
and,
100%.
Powerful options that don't work with melee weapons at all. So.
And I very recently played the Mauser for the first time in a while, and I was like, this gun's actually like, I think like a really well designed gun, right? I think it's like a really good designed gun. Like, even I love the idea of like Tony Morgan with the stylish clothes from Scarlet Keys getting extra money off the Mauser, right? And I think this also comes to the idea too that like a lot of the guns in Guardian are less kind of like,
they are not quite so flashy.
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of like the difference. There's kind of a Guardian design issue where the Guardian weapons are designed to be efficient at killing enemies, and then they want to make the other classes things worse. So then they get there are things like baseball bat that are efficient but have a huge downside, or things like the Mauser, which have some of their power budgeted into something else that class cares about. That isn't just killing the enemy.
Yeah, 100%. Or like you see like with the 25 automatic too, right? Like the efficiency that the rogue class can provide with that. I am curious to see how the upgraded baseball bat plays, because I don't know if it's like going to be too good, but it's still unreliable, takes up both your hand slots, and if it goes into your hand too early, or you can't kill the thing with the extra damage, you're kind of just like, now what do I do, right? Yeah, I'm curious to see how it plays.
I'm excited to play with it and attack an enemy engaged with Travis, draw the red token, and be like, extra damage.
So it's just helping you get more healing.
If that happens, like, what can you do?
Yeah.
It's out of my hands. And also
it's also out of my hands, because I just discarded it.
What do we got next? We got the Enchanted Blade. Travis, I'll let you take this one.
Yeah, this is the only one that I thought was like just good. Mostly because it's basically a gun.
Yeah, that's what my notes have. Just a gun question mark.
Like, it takes up 2 slots, which is proportional to the power level of it. Not that the arcane matters much for the for either of them except for the mystic one, I guess. But and this does encompass all 3, not just the level 0. But it's a melee weapon that you can choose to fight like poorly infinite number of times, or you can use it to fight good a couple of times. Which is kind of where I think that melee weapons should be.
I mean, like, you get to do both.
I mean, like, yes.
Yeah, right.
But I mean, you get to fight good a number of times.
A couple of times and poorly infinite times.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not like an either or. It's a both.
And it has like reasonable downsides to that. Like, you compare this to the 45 automatic. That's the Corset one, right?
Yeah.
I always get the numbers mixed up. So it takes up an extra arcane slot, which you might care about.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter for most Guardians, but they are printing more and more arcane slot things for Guardians. It costs 1 less, but it has 1 less use. So.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I think what I also like about stuff like this is that they get better if you have things that can potentially interact with charges or put more charges on, right? And like, it is just a gun, right? But it also shoots when the gun is empty, which is huge, right? Like, because now you can still just punch it +1.
Even if it shoots poorly, yeah.
Yeah.
There's also like risk involvement where you have to spend the charge first, which isn't true of the later ones.
Yep.
Or it's not true of the Guardian one. It's still true of the Mystic one, I think, right, Brent?
Hmm?
The Mystic one, you have to commit the charges before you draw to the
Yeah,
test.
the Mystic one, you commit the charges before, but it also gives you, like, extra plus.
Yeah, for each charge that you spend or something like that. Yeah.
As opposed to the blue one, where you just always get the +2, and then you can spend charges for the damage.
Yeah. Which is really nice, because it's still just like...
Yeah, it also heals you and you draw a card.
Yeah.
I mean, it costs 3 experience. Like, that's fine.
Yeah, because like and then it's only if you defeat the enemy when it's empowered as well, which is easy to like make happen, right? That's very easy to make a possibility. But like I just like even like that, it's still just like you get +2 for the attack. That's still a relevant number. It's just not dealing the extra damage, right?
Yeah, the purple one gives you I think like +2. Is it +2 and then an extra +1 per charge spent?
It's
Or is it
+1 and
+2?
+1 damage for each charge, I think.
Oh, someone played it recently. You may spend up to 2 charges for each charge spent. This way, you get +1 fist and deal +1 damage. So it has like good explosive damage. Also has an extra charge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a copy of that in my die in the deck.
Yeah. No, I think they're great weapons. And because, I think they're just probably one of the best on the list here, right?
Besides,
I think?
playing the game with a magic sword is way
that's the
cooler than
second
playing
almost.
the game with like a revolver or whatever.
Yeah, it does feel a bit cooler. Yeah. Oh, do you know, actually, I think also could have been, I forgot to put on, well, maybe some honorable mentions at the end. So this one, Travis and I disagree on.
Yeah.
But I think it's just because what we define as best design is different. Because I agree with what Travis is saying, but I know Travis doesn't agree with what I'm saying because that's not how Travis works.
No.
We have 2-cost Knuckle Duster, takes up the hand slot. As an action fight, this attack deals +1 damage. The attacked enemy gains retaliate for this attack. For me, what this does, it hits my threshold, what I talked about at the beginning, where it gives you a damage bonus, but it gives you no help in like getting to a number that's
figure
good.
it out on your own.
Yeah. Like, Tony Morgan obviously ruins a lot of these rogue weapons, right? Because Tony Morgan kind of just, like, beats the part of this. But if you're playing, like, I played Knuckle Duster in Leo, and I had to work for it. I had to get allies that bumped my thing. I played reliables for the first time just to get this thing to be more reliable. And I had to put in a lot of experience and effort into this to make it my actually functional melee weapon. And then while the downside, I think the downside could definitely be worse, right? Because most enemies have retaliate nowadays, right?
Or many of them do.
Yeah,
They
always
don't.
have.
They're not that scary. So whatever, you're gonna score the damage anyway.
So like maybe like if it was like attached enemy gains retaliate and deals +1 additional damage, it would be like scarier as a downside. But for me, what this does hit is that idea that it gives you my +1 damage, but I'm not looking at like this is like I'd rather play a gun over Knuckle Duster, which I think is a success for a melee weapon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the reason I dislike it is because, like, it doesn't. The downside is you don't get plus punch, and that the enemy can retaliate. So like you're more likely to get hit on the retaliate, but it always deals +1 damage consistently with no other. There's no like sort of active downside to it, I guess.
Yeah, how many enemies can you be engaged with? As many as you want, doesn't matter.
And like if you play as an investigator who has 3 punch, you're gonna have a bad time. Play as an investigator who has 4 punch, like you're gonna have to work for it to be good. Play an investigator who has 5 punch, it's gonna be pretty solid for you. But in general, you're just not gonna play it if the downside matters. The only time you're playing this card is when you are willing to put in the resources and like the the experience in the cards or whatever in the setup to make the downside just not matter. And I think that is like that qualifies as poor design for me. Like the downside is negligible, but easy enough to avoid that you're willing to put in the effort to get rid of it. Whereas if it is so big that you can't get rid of it, the card's bad. So.
The thing I don't like about this is that you can't play it Nathaniel Cho.
Yeah. You can with our good friend Versatile.
No, you can't.
All right, that's fair.
Yep.
Because he has boxing gloves
Can't be
on.
done.
Yeah. He's not cheating. He's not a cheater.
No,
Yeah.
if he's gonna cheat with like a gun or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Just like Bob
Dynamite.
Jenkins. Hey, hey.
Oh no!
It's like, hey, Nathaniel, catch, throws him a sawed-off shotgun. And it's like, with the bandolier, with his boxing gloves. Yeah. All right, next one we got here is Survival Knife, specifically the level 0 version. You get +1 fist with attack. After an enemy attacks you, deals damage to you during the enemy phase, exhaust Survival Knife. Fight, this attack targets the attacking enemy. You get +2 fist and deal +1 damage for this attack.
Yeah, so I thought this was a well-designed melee weapon, but also kind of falls on the side of being bad.
What you're talking
You can only take so many attacks, like, to do the extra damage, otherwise you just fight at +1, which is like, it has a downside. But again, like, the downside's kind of like too big to be worth it in a lot of cases.
I mean, I think what Survival Knife does really well, and what I think melee weapons should do, is that this card supports your other hand, which is shooting a gun.
It does complement the other hand.
Yeah, which I think is like also a success for melee weapon design, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bandolier permanent when?
Yeah.
That being said, I think the level 2 one is too good.
I mean, yeah, I agree, because the amount of times I've played the level 2 Survival Knife and then put 2 in play, being like, this is probably a mistake, and it never was.
No.
Was like all the time. It was never the wrong choice. Because you just save so many actions just being like, I'm going to move in here for my last action, kill this man,
Yeah.
and then just like keep
Go on
going.
with your life, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a mistake if you need to kill an enemy that has more than like 3-ish hit points.
Yeah.
I mean, even then,
At
you can
any
still
point?
get 5 damage out of it in one turn.
Yeah, sure, but like having 2 of them is
Having 2 of them, you can get 7 damage out of it in one turn.
like less good.
When was the last time you killed an enemy with more than 7 health in one turn?
Yesterday.
That's really funny. I know, Bryn, you played this one. You get this one level 0 a lot in your decks too.
I think this is just fine. Like,
Yeah.
you shouldn't need the +2, like the reaction attack that often, but sometimes you do.
Sometimes you do. And usually it falls into a point where it's like more action
Yeah.
efficient sometimes too, to just like...
Sometimes you're wrestling with a cultist and you're like, how much damage do you do? Is it 1 meat? I don't actually care about that.
Yeah.
You can hit me and then I'll kill you.
And what I also like about the design of Survival Knife is that it complements other archetypes within the Guardian class, right? Like Guard Dog improves Survival Knife,
Yep.
you know?
No, I think the level 0 one is, like, pretty well designed.
I think the level 2 one is also in like...
I mean, it's good, but I
Yeah.
think it's too good.
I don't think it's too good.
I think there's no downside to playing it. Like,
It costs 1 of your hand slots.
so
That's
all your
so
weapons will.
much. How are you gonna carry your shotgun?
Bandolier.
But then I gotta find
But then
the
you gotta
bandolier.
find the
Oh, well, you
bandolier.
can look at the top 12 cards of your deck.
It's true.
Yeah, but like I can't do that with this. I have the bandolier takes the body slot.
And what if I get my like my
if I draw them
shotgun
in
and
the
my
wrong
Survival
order?
Knife and my bandolier?
Oh no! My God.
All right, what do we got next? Chainsaw. 4 cost, 4 experience, uses 3 supplies. Travis put this here because it has uses.
It's basically a gun, yeah. Again, it's a melee weapon technically. It's very similar to the Enchanted Blade. It's like a gun that just kind of refills. This isn't a melee weapon. This is a gun.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
This doesn't serve
It's
to
a
be-
chainsaw.
It says
A
melee.
chainsaw doesn't shoot any. You gotta hit something. with the
Mechanically,
chainsaw,
it is a
Therefore,
gun.
it's a melee weapon.
I would love a
Mechanically,
mode
it's a
that's
gun.
just like swing it like this and hit somebody, and you're just like, you just get a fight at like +1 and deal no extra damage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This one's here, but it's like kind of disingenuous.
It is, yeah. It's a melee weapon by trait, and you know the fact that it is actually technically a
Yeah.
melee weapon.
One of these days, I'm gonna have to play a York deck.
Yeah, I want to see that.
One day.
Yeah.
Maybe next time I get to choose something, and we aren't playing Edge of the Earth, and I don't have to play Carson Sinclair and follow Vincent Lee around.
You don't
the
have
Edge
to
of the
follow me
Earth.
around. You can do whatever.
And that whatever is explicitly following me around.
You can do anything
Carlson,
you want as
hold
long as
that
you're at my
penguin for me.
location.
All right, so I think this is the last one on our list. This is the Runic Axe. Specifically, I think that the level 0 version is where this one is like the best feeling for its design as a melee weapon.
This one's also a gun.
It is also a gun. Yeah, yeah.
Kinda, basically, yeah.
Yeah. But like you get
Sort
those
of.
charges back. And I mean like if you don't have charges, you still get to fight desperately a +1 attack. And you just deal no extra damage. But what I like about the level 0 Runic Axe is that you put you have to like make choices for when you're spending the extra charges, because you basically get like 2 good hits at +3/+1 damage like every round, right? And then you kind of have to like pace them out as they go, and you actually can get overwhelmed by it. And it leads to you actually making like decisions with your melee weapon as opposed to just I hit the man with the machete.
I swing the hammer.
Yeah. When you put experience in this card, though, it becomes way too powerful for a
weapon.
A melee weapon. Yeah.
I mean, even for a gun, like the level 10 version of this is like pretty nuts.
But if you spend 5 per card, the card should be good.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's. I think that's fair.
Rewarding to play with.
Yeah.
I mean,
Like-
it's not that it doesn't. It just trivializes everything else in your deck.
Yeah.
You don't
Sure.
need other cards to do your job. Is the thing.
And I mean, like, at this point too, I think also like the idea of Runic Axe is also kind of a little bit disingenuous as just like a melee weapon conversation, because at the 10 experience, 5 experience per card, it performs like a gun with charges. It's just like, because it doesn't run out, it's a little bit like less, like a little bit.
It's effectively a melee weapon. Like you don't run out of. You kill enemies efficiently enough that you're not going to run out of charges unless something's gone horribly, horribly wrong.
Yeah.
And you just have so much punch, like you're not going to really fail the tests. It's very similar to Cyclopean Hammer in that manner.
I think that the ones that weren't on the
It's
list.
cooler because it's an axe.
It is, yeah.
Yeah,
it's
I mean,
true.
like I won't disagree. This card is cooler than the Cyclopean Hammer.
I think the Sledgehammers are nice designs. I think both of them are good melee weapons. Not here. The one that takes the upgraded one obviously has like a really good top action, but I think that also kind of flavorfully fits for a Sledgehammer. But like everyone with their playing the Sledgehammer, they're trying to take advantage of that bottom action, right? To like deal a shit ton of damage, right?
I think that the level 0-1 is relatively good design, but I still kind of disagree with the level 4 one because you're not going to play it unless you have a way to mitigate that being 3 actions. Whether that's like Riot Whistle or Safeguard to drag you around or something like that, or taunts to take enemies off people. Like you're not gonna.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose like
You're
from
not gonna play if the downside matters.
like from the spike perspective, I definitely agree. But I think like from the other side, the Johnny perspective of being able to like put these combo pieces together, I think that is a successful design for a weapon. Another one that I want to shout out that wasn't here is I think Blessed Blade is also a good melee weapon, because it actually I think can function.
I mean, like it's bad.
No, but I think I think it's good at like the home it lives in, like it should be, right? Because it's not your primary killing tool, but you still always have the one action that you can just stab with.
Does that one get tabooed?
No.
No, it's just as printed.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Because like you're not playing it outside of Blessed, which is true, but I also think that
Even inside Bless, it's like not good. I've played it once in Sister Mary, and I've seen other people play it. I think twice, and every time it's just disappointing.
I mean, I thought it was great in my Will York deck.
I guess it wasn't. I wouldn't say it was great. Token of Faith was great. It was
Token,
okay.
that's fair. Token of Faith
okay.
was pretty good, and I mean, but like at the same time, I had to work for it. But it wasn't like I was like, it's kind of like the loop that I crave from a melee weapon, which is like my melee weapon's there, but with that deck, I was looping my Derringers with Will York goodness, right? Which is a bit more compelling than just relying on just my one weapon that I put into play.
Yeah, I mean, it was a nice compliment to the guns, but it does sort of suffer from the same thing where, like, the downside is you have to draw a blessing during... it was more there to put blessings into the bag than it was to, like, use for fighting.
Yeah, which I think is...
It's just
I
fine.
think it's still fine, yeah.
Yeah, but, like, as a weapon itself, the downside is you need to draw blessings, and you were in on that plan, and it's still, like, you couldn't do it consistently enough to have it be, like, a main weapon.
Yeah, but I think that's still good for what I want from a melee weapon.
Okay.
Not necessarily the main weapon, because then it's like...
No, it's fine.
Yeah. All right, is that it? That is it. Yeah. Well, Brandon, I also did when I was talking to Travis before, I think that Switchblade, the upgraded one, is a good weapon outside of Tony Morgan.
I mean, even in Tony Morgan, like, he effectively fights at 3, because you have to succeed by 2.
Yeah,
for
that's
the
fair.
extra point, which, like, doesn't feel that unfair. Except when you get to play it well engaged with an enemy, and you're just like, cool, I'm gonna kill you with this.
Yeah.
I mean, I would argue
I ran out of bullets.
Yeah, so I'm just going to stab you in the throat with the Switchblade.
I would argue with, like, most enemies' health being 3, assuming that the average is 3, that it's like, or most enemies you're fighting are close to 3, you're actually fighting at 4, because it's going to take 2 actions either way, so you only need to succeed at one of the tests by 2.
Yeah, and actually, like, a thing, too, that is that...
But, like, if you succeed at none of them, then you have to take a 3rd test. And then you're testing at, what, 4.25?
No.
But I think what this also comes down to is the fact that,
Then
like...
you just test it at 5.
With clue getting... With clue getting, you're, like, the game doesn't punish you if you fuck up. Like, you draw an auto-fail on a clue, and you're like, that's fine. That was my basic investigate.
Sometimes it does. Sometimes you're like, I'm going to play this pilfer, and the game
That is
like,
true, yeah.
No, get out of here.
But then, like, we compare that to, like, you shoot a gun, and it's against an enemy, and you auto-fail that, and you're like, that really sucked. Now I need to kill this enemy, or this enemy's going to deal some damage to me. I think what would make this feel better, too, is if that there was more punishment for clue getters, like the haunted mechanic. That didn't just end up getting your goon locked into a realm of torment and then just getting punished while the clue getter's just like, you know?
I mean, like, that's kind of we talked about this, like, in the tempo, how to win. But that's kind of like how the two sides of things match up between the clue getters and the monster fighters. Where the clue getter's job, getting the clues, it's like relatively low risk. It's relatively low stress. Like, it just needs to happen eventually. Like, it needs to happen in a period of time. Obviously, there's a deadline for it. But it doesn't matter if you don't need to get those 3 clues right now. You can get them over 3 turns. Whereas the monster fighter, if a scary monster comes up, it needs to be dealt with right now. You can't delay it. But ultimately, being overly prepared to deal with monsters doesn't win you the game. Right? If you kill every monster turn it comes down, you're still probably not winning the game because you can't get clues well. Right?
But I think this is like where the kind of like the thing comes in where like the whole seeker problem where they kept getting overpowered cards and all that. Like the yellow problem, Fantasy Flight Games, all that stuff.
Yep.
But like I think it just comes down to that there should be, I think, more stress on clue getting.
That's fair.
Yeah. In comparison to the stress that a goon receives from a monster. Yeah.
I just think the guns should be cheaper.
Yeah. I think that would be good too.
I think they're currently like a little expensive for what they do.
Yeah, definitely.
By resource cost.
Also, melee weapons cost more, but that would kind of like exaggerate the problem that you need to like play your one weapon and then invest everything into it and needs to do everything for
it's
you.
just like like the 45 costing 4 instead of 3 is kind of just what makes it like I am not going to play this. It's my level 0 option.
Yeah. Because like Machete is right here.
Yeah, right. Like I could play Machete or Enchanted Blade, and Enchanted Blade is basically the same thing for 1 less money.
Yeah.
One thing I don't want to see in design is like a whole pile of cards that reload your guns for low costs.
Yeah.
So I would just effectively turn them to melee weapons. If your deck is, I play a lightning gun, and then the rest of my deck is extra ammo cards, and I never need to care about anything else.
Yeah, because I think we have good we have good reload cards, like extra ammunition and swift reload are nice cards.
Yeah,
and then there's like
stuff is
ways
neat, too.
around it too that are like you can go like the really roundabout way, like put well maintained and then like act of desperation the gun on somebody, right?
That's fun.
But then I think I like the one in the chamber, like small effects that give you like one more shot. Like even though it adds up, but still like if your deck is like a gun and then like 6 copies of things that are like 1 in the chamber, your deck is probably still better if you just had like an extra 2 other guns, right?
Maybe it depends like what the quality of search effects you have active.
Well,
And then also like if you're like upgrading those guns as well. But like if you're looking to just shoot guns,
if your deck is also like 2 prepared for the worst and like 2 backpacks, then the extra guns don't matter because you're just gonna pick the good one.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes that gun is like Lucille, and she's your favorite gun. So
Becky.
you'd rather No,
Becky.
Well, I mean,
Becky's pretty
don't
good.
tell Becky about Lucille.
yeah.
She'll get mad. She's like that.
Yeah.
I mean, like I think what also would be fun is if there was just like a card that like it's like just kidding, I actually didn't shoot my gun in quotes, which is just like if you draw the autofill with shooting a gun, put the bullet back on, and it's an event that just is like, just to mitigate some of that too. It's just like
misfire.
Yeah, just like to because like once again it goes to the thing where like you get. Unless you're like putting a pilfer in, you basic investigate, autofail, you move on with your day. You're like, that token did not matter. Compare that to shooting a gun, and you're like...
That actually might be like a neat like Mystic Guardian dual class card. It's like you get to rewind any actions that or like replace charges or bullets that you spent that turn or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Not rewind the actions, but like I didn't actually. You can like manipulate time to say you didn't actually shoot them or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That might be a neat reload thing, but
Cool. That's it. Once again, we're kind of just testing out new formats for this list videos. We'll go back, like we'll still do like, you know, traditional style, but let us know what you think of these list videos in the comments, as well as like any or sort of other conversations you want to see us take on. Because as you can tell, when we're not restricted to make a list where we each bring 4 cards, we can go deeper into the topic and actually explore it a bit more. So let us know what you think in the comments. Thanks so much for watching. Have a good one. And as always, a GG's.